Busch Gardens Williamsburg is the best SeaWorld Park I've been to. Located in Williamsburg, Virginia, this park has won awards for most beautiful theme park. And you can tell with its gorgeous European architecture and solid coaster collection. A while back, I had the chance to check this place out on a trip to DC. So today, I'll be ranking the coasters of Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Before we get started, I'd first like to note that my visit came in April 2023. This means I did not get the chance to ride Dark Coaster, the intimate indoor straddle coaster, as that opened a month after my visit. Because of this, Dark Coaster will remain off this list until I can come back to BGW. Had I ridden this, it probably would have ranked in the middle of this list. With that out of the way, let's get started. Number 9. Grover's Alpine Express, a Zero Force 190 from 2009. The park's smallest coaster is this Zero Kiddie coaster. This coaster is definitely great for kids since it wouldn't scare the living daylights out of them. Adults can even find a little bit of laterals here and there, but since it's the park's smallest coaster, it naturally has to take the bottom spot. Number 8. Tempesto, the premier ride Skyrocket 2 from 2015. Even though it's the lowest ranked adult coaster here, that doesn't mean it's bad. It's just I have more enjoyment from the park's other coasters. But Tempesto does hold a foot in the park. The swing launch has some punch, even if it's now redundant with a nearby coaster. The Heartline roll gives great hang time, the crest gives great ejector air, and the non-inverting loop has great positives. The main con I have is that the premier trains kinda suck. Not only are the trains small and cramped, but the comfort collars also leave you very restrictive. Plus, it slows down operations. Tempesto is still a great ride, but a lesser priority given there's 10 other clones out there. Number 7. Invader, the GCI family wooden coaster from 2017. The park's only wooden coaster, Invader offers something unique to Busch Gardens Williamsburg. I know when Invader first opened, it got a lot of flack for not being Mystic Timbers, but Invader isn't trying to be like Mystic. It's a family thrill coaster meant to appeal to all ages. There were several pops of airtime like the first drop that had me smiling. You can't really get the classic rumble and sway of a wooden coaster on their other rides. Now when I rode it, the ride developed some rough sections in some of the valleys. So I hope Busch Gardens can smooth out some of the sections because it would suck if it got brutally rough. The other thing that sucks about Invader is waiting in line. Due to the low capacity Millennium Flyers, which, fun fact, came from Busch Gardens Tampa's Gwazi, the line moves at a snail's pace with no theming. That's 60 minutes I'm not getting back. Number 6. Loch Ness Monster, an Aerodynamics custom looper from 1978. The park's most iconic coaster is this classic Aero looper. Themed to the mythical Loch Ness Monster, this coaster brought Busch Gardens notoriety back then. Now this is actually one I like riding more than some others higher up on this list. Because of how Aero made their coasters, the transitions feel laughably janky, but since it didn't inflict pain, I'm able to enjoy what Nessie has to offer. The airtime on the drops is very good. The interlocking loops have great positive Gs, and the setting is absolutely pretty. Now I will admit the pacing is very off in the middle section with the helix and second chain lift. Also, you have to brace on this coaster, otherwise the janky Aero track will bash your head. Number 5. Verbolten, the Zero Multi-Launch from 2012. Verbolten had major shoes to fill given it replaced the beloved Big Bad Wolf. I never ran the Wolf, but I imagine I would have loved it given my enjoyment on Canada's Wonderland's Vortex. As for Verbolten, even though it was clearly designed as a family coaster, this has some surprising elements. The launches has some underrated power, the helix and turns are fairly forceful, and even a surprise. Skip 20 seconds to avoid spoiler alert, but there's 3, 2, 1, a drop track. This causes my stomach to drop similar to drop towers. Verbolten also reuses the Wolf's footers in the second half almost to a T. The downside is that there's really not much airtime on this ride, but that's okay when you're having this much fun on a coaster. Now I do suggest hitting this one early as this gets one of the longer lines in the park. Number 4. Griffon, the B&M dive from 2017. Griffon is one of the earliest B&M dives and also considered one of the best. The reason for this is the over-the-shoulder restraints giving plenty of room for airtime. Contrast this with later dive coasters that uses vest restraints. The layout is very simple, but it gets the job done. The 2 drops give nice airtime, the implements have some whip, and even the mid-courses somehow gave me airtime. But Griffon is very short and is essentially a one-trick pony, but Griffon succeeds where it does well. Number 3. Apollo's Chariot, the B&M Hyper from 1999. This is the first 200-foot hypercoaster built by B&M. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed. My main issue with Apollo is the lack of airtime on the airtime hills. On most of the airtime hills, the air doesn't start until halfway down the drop, and even there, the power is very weak floater. Now, I still enjoy Apollo, going through the woods and even a couple hills of strong floater. Also, the single rider line is very helpful with combating crowds. Being B&M's first hyper, you can tell that they progressively got better with each one. Just look at the chain's other B&M hyper with Mako. That one is considered one of the best B&M hypers with its strong sustained air, while Apollo feels like it has pacing issues. But Apollo is still something worth doing. Number 2. Alpengeist, the B&M invert from 1997. Now normally I prefer airtime to positive G-forces, but one thing I look for is power. Alpengeist has some of the strongest G-forces I felt. This is helped by both the inversions and height. The coaster stands 195 feet, making it the tallest inverted coaster in the world. The inversions wall cookie cutter packs a serious punch. The twisted drop is freakishly tall. The Immelman and loop have good forces. The Cobra roll has a lot of snap, but then the pacing dies as the mid-course trims you very hard like Griffin in the same park. The loss of speed results in faint airtime on the 0G roll and corkscrew. I do wish the mid-course didn't trim because that ending is kind of a buzzkill with a lack of speed. But Alpengeist's first half rivals Montu for best inverted coaster in America. But we still got one more ride to go. Number 1. Pantheon, the Intamin LSM launch coaster from 2022. Delayed for 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Pantheon is a complete package. This is one of Intamin's latest creations. Here is the introduction of a high-speed switch track. This is a section of track that switches to head in a different direction. Pantheon has a wide variety of forces. The hang time on the 0G winder and especially the stall is lit. The airtime on the outer banks and top hat offer a nice ejector, but the real star of the show is the swing launch section. This is when the coaster launches forwards, then rolls back, launches backwards into a spike, and forwards again into a top hat. It's extra special with the speed hill on the launch that offers solid ejector. Plus that with Intamin's new generation lap bars and you have a winner. Now sometimes this coaster has some technical issues as Pantheon only ran one train the day I went. And let's not forget the joke that is the lack of theming this ride does not have. Just look at this flat piece of land, like what the heck? But that very layout makes it the best coaster at this park and the state of Virginia. Now it's worth noting that I have yet to visit nearby King's Dominion. Even though I drove past this park, I didn't have time to check it out. Plus, both I-305 and Twisted Timbers weren't even open the day I went here. So for now, Pantheon is the best coaster in Virginia. So that is my ranking of the coasters of Busch Gardens Williamsburg. What is your favorite coaster here, and what are your thoughts about their theming? Leave all that in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, which if you watched to the end it means you did, you can help by giving a like. Also, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. It only takes 5 seconds to do and that motivates me to make more awesome content just like this in the future. This is the Coaster Flood, riding out.